Hello, this is Daryl here, sending love as always. Thank you for tuning in. I just want to say if you like this interview, you can check our website for companion workbooks, action guides, tools, checklists, templates, and show notes with links for everything mentioned on the call. Just visit bestbusinesscoach.ca. That's best, B-E-S-T, businesscoach.ca. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multimillionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too, without experiencing the same obstacles they did. When your life and your business grow as a result of what you're about to discover, please call me and tell me about it. The number to leave a voicemail is 1-888-844-GROW. That's 1-888-844-4769. Long distance charges may apply. Dial now to call me, connect, share your personal story of how my interviews have helped, or share your current challenges and frustrations so I can connect you with an appropriate course, coach, or help you if you connect. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are joined by a returning guest and highly respected expert in paid media. I'm super excited for this, and you should be too. The man I'm talking about is Justin Brooke, and Justin is an online advertising expert and has been ever since he turned $60 into six figures with Google AdWords back in 2007. Justin is an author, blogger, speaker, and founder of AdSkills. He's helped over 11,000 ad buyers build more profitable ad campaigns, get certified, and get matched up with clients or job. He's leading the industry because instead of buying multiple courses from different experts, you can learn them all under one roof for one price at adskills.com. I asked him to join us here today to share some insights on how to make the paid media game work for us and what to do when things go wrong. So Justin, thank you so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm phenomenal, man. Life could not be better right now. It's one of those times where I'm scary it's going to turn at any moment, but I'm trying not to think that way either,
Yeah. Well, it's a maintenance game, it really is.
Yeah. Right.
It really is. In the beginning, maybe people are struggling, and then I totally get it, but that's great. That's fantastic. So for those that are new to the game and don't know Justin's background, please go listen to our first interview. There'll be a link to it in the notes. But following up now, Justin, I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit about kind of what has changed since we interviewed you. I think it was like a year ago now. Like what's really changed in the ad space? And so some of that, like I know you were talking about the Netflix documentary, kind of like talking about like digital privacy and that. What are kind of the main things on the industry dashboard right now in terms of media buying?
Okay, so to give everybody kind of a snapshot of the industry right now, Facebook and Google are the two dominant players of the ad industry. Google is still bigger. Facebook is really, really close second. However, Google still wins in market cap, in total inventory size, in different ad units. Like they still are bigger. However, a lot of people believe Facebook is better. The reason for that is Facebook very cleverly decided as they built the platform and their algorithms to favor the smaller advertiser. Google favored the bigger one. That's nobody thought to do anything different back when Google was coming around. Everybody was like, oh, we want to attract the Tylenols and the Coca-Colas and and Facebook came around and went after the long tail. And that's why a lot of people see success at $5 a day, $10 a day. And then they're like, oh, wow, this thing's a monster. It's working really well. And they push it to $100 or $500 a day. And the results just tank because it's built to work off of the smaller ad budget sizes. And so there's other techniques and things that you got to do. The quick answer, and we can dive into it a little bit more later on if you want, but the quick answer is you want to have a lot of small campaigns, not one big monster campaign. With that said, just a few other things. The number 3, I think it would go between YouTube ads. YouTube ads is hot right now. If anybody's getting a little tired of, because Facebook, the costs are rising, the competition is huge, the rules are getting a little hard to deal with, and if you're feeling that pressure and you're looking for something else, YouTube ads is ready and waiting, and it's gorgeous. It's a really, really hot opportunity right now. I don't believe that will be the same a year, 2 years from now, because I think a lot of people are making that move right now, and like there will be something else a year from now. And then lastly, native ads. Native ads are really strong right now for anybody who has the mass market type of stuff, the dating offers, the health, fitness, financial offers, but it's not good for somebody with like a niche thing. Niche stuff, you want to be in YouTube, Facebook ads. But I mean, if you wanted to I just want to learn one, Google. Google is the safe bet. If you just want to learn one and you want to be able to take one from $5 a day to, I've taken it all the way to $65,000 a day. So Google's there to, be with you your whole career if you just want to learn one spot. That's the snapshot.
Now, I remember back in the day, Kim McCarthy had did an interview, and it was like the internet marketing rollout method, and it was like, how did it go? It was like you get your Google search ad going and you dial that in, so you got like your headline and kind of your intro copy, and then you go with a banner ad, and then you start doing media buys on websites. Is that kind of the same thing? Like you said, if you were to focus on one thing, start on Google. Is that because Google's most scalable? Is it also because you can take what's working on Google and transfer it to other channels?
I didn't know about that, but that's very similar to what I'm teaching people today. So, there is a version of that still exists. I teach them to get their branded search ad. So search ads that are running on any of your own keywords, like for me, it would be Justin Brooke and ad skills and bulletproof YouTube ads, product names, your name, business name, and then retargeting on Facebook, and then like this banner ads and stuff. And so the reason for that is all of advertising, it's not as linear as it used to be. We're used to, and where people see an ad, click an ad, read a sales letter, and then they buy something. Well, today it's more circular. They see an ad, they go and do some searches and reviews, and then they go on Facebook and ask their friends, and then they go and look for some coupons to see if there's any coupons, and then they finally come back to the site. And so you want to have that search ad out there first, because everything you do, all your social media, all your vlogging, blogging, podcasts, ads are going to drop people off over at Google, and you want to have a nice controllable device to bring them in where you want to. And then the retargeting, same thing. Some people, they're going to come to your website, but today we're on multiple devices. So I might see you on my phone, but then I'm like, I don't want to buy right here. I don't have my wallet in my pocket. Later on, I see a retargeting ad, and I'm at my desktop computer with my wallet next to me. It's like, oh, okay, now I can buy. Or I'm by the TV now, and I can finally talk to my wife and get permission to purchase the thing. So that's why retargeting. And then finally, you got to have your discovery thing, so that's where the banner ads, or I teach people to have a piece of content, a really valuable piece of content, and then that content is going to lead them to wherever you want them to go. But, and for as little as $5 a day, because you get them on that piece of content, and then later on, they're going to see your retargeting ads, and then they're going to Google you and see your Google ads. So
I like that.
It's a system that we've used, and taught all of our students, and it's very forgiving. You can make a lot of mistakes and still be successful with that little triumvirate system.
I love this. So you're saying, and this is, I've heard of the $1 a day Facebook ad strategy, and you're just basically saying, do that. You're saying $5 a day, put your best content out there for people, have a call to action, but don't worry so much about if it works or not, because what you're really trying to do is just build a retargeting list. And like you said, you're starting off with optimizing your remarketing ads and your branded keyword search ads for your product name, your name, the business's name. Because you got to be able to convert those people, right? Before you can, almost like a bullseye, if you're doing archery, you got to be able to make the center of the bullseye work before you can start expanding out the other rings. Is that accurate? Would you agree?
Well, it's a little bit more of those are like a fail-safe, like a net, like a trapeze artist nets, in case you fall. Like those are there to catch the visitors that fall. And the other thing about those is they're not really going to spend any money, because until people are searching for you, you won't actually spend $1. So if nobody's searching for your product name yet, then you're not going to spend any money. And then the same thing with the retargeting. If you're not getting anybody to your pages, there's nobody to retarget. So you're not going to spend any money. So that's why it's great to set those up first, because then when you start doing, look, mine is $5. Dennis he's got the $1 a day. I love Dennis, but the reason why we're using those low budgets is, one, because it's very safe and scalable. Also, the algorithms today are trying to do the best for you at the smaller budgets, because they're trying to attract all the mom and pops, because they already have the Coca-Colas and Tylenols. Like, digital marketing's been around for 15, 20 years now. Everybody's already got the big advertisers. Now they're trying to get all the little guys, and so their algorithms are really trying to do well with the small budgets. And so that's why we have the $1 a day, $5 a day methods, because you can do very well, and then you can inch it up.
Got it. So when people are starting, you already said that you already kind of gave your prescription that when you're starting, start with Google, learn Google, set up branded search ads first for your product name, business owner name, all that, your retargeting. Now, what are the biggest newbie mistakes that you see people making? Like, they heard this prescription from you. They're like, okay, Justin, I'm going to go do it. What are kind of the top handful of pitfalls these people are running into?
The biggest thing that I would, is everybody's like, I want it all. They want all the traffic, all the customers. It's like very noble of you to want that, but maybe if you've never run ads before, maybe you want like 5 customers first, right? And then you can get 10 customers. And so what that ends up looking like is they hear about Google ads and they go and they add all the keywords, every possible keyword that they think might, lead into. And then they think of some reach keywords. Well, I know my people like basketball, so maybe I can add some basketball keywords in there too. And I know they own a dog, and their dog may have been a puppy too, so maybe we can add some puppy training. They just start adding all these keywords, and then the same thing goes on Instagram and Facebook. They're like, I heard interests are good. Well, I know my people are interested in salad, and everybody eats, right? So I'm going to put steak in there, and everybody goes to Walmart. So I'm going to add the Walmart interest in there, and and that's what it looks like is they put their whole budget in. And they put all the keywords in, and they try to make this like one big campaign, but they don't really have any skills in it or any experience. So it's more like they just created the most expensive one-armed bandit slot machine kind of thing. And it's like they only get that. Yeah, they get that one pull, and if it doesn't work, then they're like, paid traffic doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's the big mistake.
Got it. So it's way better to just, like you said, spread it out, test small. That's from Claude Hopkins' Scientific Advertising. Let the thousands tell you what the millions will do. Test small and scale big fast, type of things.
Absolutely. Very small campaigns in the beginning. If you had $1,000, I would tell you to break that up into 5 budgets. So now you have 5 $200 budgets. And with that first $200 budget, I'm going to tell you to create like 10 to 20 $5 a day campaigns targeting different things. So you can still target all those things, but target them individually, because you don't know which of those are going to work. My very first Google ad campaign, I had 900 keywords in there. So I know I did it. I did what everybody I had so there was 900 keywords in this thing. And by the time I was, like 3 months later, optimizing and all that stuff, there was actually only 9 keywords in there that actually led to any sales at all.
Wow.
So, you want to have those keywords. I wouldn't have found the 9 if I hadn't targeted so many. And 900 is a bit excessive, so nobody has to do 900. Right. But, if you want to do 20, 50, separate them out. So that way you can see which ones are actually generating sales, And that's what that first $200 is all about, is getting, it's really like gold mining. When you're gold mining, you have to get rid of all the dirt first to get down to the gold. Same thing with advertising is you have to get rid of all the dirt. So you spend on all the different keywords and targets. So that way you can scrape away all the ones that don't work, and then you leave on the ones that do. And now you bring in that second round of $200 and you reinforce and you reinforce, and that's how you scale up.
So I love this because in the beginning you're starting with that, and on our last call I think I brought up when I had my martial arts school I did like a matrix of like 11 different hooks and 5 targets, and kind of had 50. I didn't make all 55 ads, but I think I did something like 30 or something, those combos. And and the best one that worked was free fighter fitness and skill assessment. Plus a free 30-day trial if you qualify, and that worked like 1,100% better than the number 2, which worked like 800% better than number 3. And you brought up the 5x3x2. You said the 5x3x2, which was like testing. I think it was 5 different targets with 3 different hooks on 2 different offers. Is that it?
Pages. I usually just refer to it by the 5x3, but yeah, it is technically 5x3x2. So it's 5 interest segments of the market, or 5 keywords, whatever you want to call it, and then 3 different ads, and then it all goes to 2 different landing pages. And that way you can learn a lot with that, and I tell people like the 5x3x2 isn't very stringent. You can do 7x4x3, or like it's really just a framework to make sure you're testing a lot, so that first budget you learn what works. It's like going to the grocery store and buying the right data, and then once you have that right data, now you have the golden goose.
Yep. And so when you're saying that you're reinforcing, so we got these 5 budgets of $200. The first one, you're doing the $5 a day. You're doing the 5x3x2 or whatever you decide to do, 10 to 20 different small campaigns to test different things. You go through. When you don't have any sales, what are you optimizing for? Are you optimizing for impressions? Are you optimizing for clicks? Is there a methodology for that? Is it platform specific? I feel like I know the answer, but I'm asking anyways.
It's a little platform specific, but I would be giving the least amount of wrong advice if I told everyone to just go with the conversion objective. The problem with the conversion objective, I'm going to get a little techie on you guys, but bear with me. Strap in your seatbelts. All right. The problem with the conversion objective is, listen, we're all dealing with algorithms today. Okay. That's a big thing to understand. We're not dealing with humans and things like that. We're really bidding to the algorithm. And so the algorithm needs data points to algorize, to understand what to do with anything, right? And so in the beginning, if your data point that you're sending over, your signal that you're firing is a conversion, but you're only getting one every other day, it's hard for the algorithm to optimize anything.
Right.
And you should see I'm waving my hands around in a circle when I say I can't optimize anything. So you might want to bring down, we call it, going upstream or downstream. People call it different things, but you want to move your conversion. Instead of it being a sale, maybe you talk with your tech guy. It's, I'm not going to explain how to do this on here because, it'd be a nightmare, but tell your tech guy that you want to make your conversion event with the pixel to be your add to cart.
Okay.
So people that are clicking the order button rather than buying. And the reason you would do this is that action directly correlates with the sale. If you were to get more add to carts, more order button clicks, you would get more sales.
Okay.
So moving it upstream a little bit allows you to fire more signals over to the algorithm quicker, letting the algorithm get trained and get smart, faster, so that it can start driving more sales for you.
Got it.
And that's really the name of the game today. Is it's all about training these pixels that all the ad networks give you. I create a new account for every product these days. That way I can really train that pixel and the algorithm to get me exactly what I want.
Got it. Now, you mentioned with Google, this is I don't know if this is advanced or not, but I've heard about this smart display campaigns with pay for conversions. Does that exist? Is that real? Does that work? Do you start off with that? What is that?
Yeah, it's real and it definitely works. It is not magic. It is not like you just turn it on and hey, whoa, we're good. It's a little bit more like go ahead.
Can you explain what that is for the listeners?
Yeah. So it's Google Smart Display Campaign is a phenomenal thing to learn about. It is really good. It is a great tool for somebody who doesn't really know how to do a lot with ads. It's one thing to learn that's not too hard to learn. And I'll explain more about it, but it's also very, very scalable. I mean, this is one of those ones that I used when I went to $65,000 a day, and that was profitable. So it's, and you can start something like this very cheap and then get to that kind of result. So what it is instead of you doing all the testing, a good advertiser, a pro would test a lot of headlines, a lot of images, night and day, different times. Instead, Google's going to do all that for you. And so when you start a smart display campaign, it's going to ask you to load up a bunch of headlines, load up a bunch of images, and then it's going to go to work. Now, here's the thing. It has to run for 14 days untouched. So that's where some people don't have the stomach, But if you do, so what Google's going to do is it's going to test it a bajillion different ways. I mean, more than you could possibly ever do. And it's going to do it at the speed of electricity. I've heard they're even testing like moon phases. They test everything. So they're going to run it through their dryer, their tumbler for 14 days, and they're going to find out exactly what works. And then from there, you can start scaling it up. You're still going to pay per click until 100 conversions.
Okay.
Once you have 100 conversions, they're going to allow you to start paying what's called a target CPA, which means you're still going to actually pay per click, but we're going to try and get you within this cost per sale. So they can get you within your goal, but that's called target CPA. Then after another 100 conversions, if things are going well, they will unlock something. I forget exactly what it's called. They change little variations of the dashboard, but it's actual CPA, and this is where like Google becomes your super affiliate, and you're paying just per sale, not per click. And this is Perry Marshall calls it the jet stream. It's also called display campaign optimizer. It's when the full might of all the billions of dollars Google has spent on machine learning and data is going to go to work for you.
Wow. So is that something you recommend beginners? Like, why doesn't everybody use that? Is there people that it's more appropriate for than others, or?
So why doesn't everybody use that? It's a little techie. It's not very, when you open up the Google dashboard, it's like sitting in the pilot's cockpit. There's a lot of buttons in there, and, it's not instantly apparent which button is the smart display campaign button. And sometimes there can be little tricky checkboxes and things like that if you click the wrong one, now you're not, optimizing the right way. And so there's a learning barrier there. And that's what I mean by if you're willing to do the learning, this is one that the juice is really worth the squeeze. And then the other thing is they got to do that 14-day thing. And not everybody
like
can
unlimited budget for them. Like that 14-day thing. That's the part. I remember I took a look at it, and that was the reason. It was like shiny object. I was like, "Ooh, smart display." I wasn't focused on that at the time, but that was the part that got me was when it gave a notice that you have to get X amount of conversions before you can do cost per action. But I didn't know what does that mean? Does that mean you're basically giving them a blank check, or you're setting a daily limit? What do you know about that?
You can set a daily limit. This one, I don't know that $5 a day is going to be. Google can't do much with $5 a day,
Right.
So I would say, I would tell people, $100 a day. It would be the floor. on this one. But you're making a $1,400 investment towards making $1 million. Yeah. Okay. And I would say you have a pretty reliable shot at the $1 million when it comes to this one. If you have a good offer. So if you have a good offer that is selling in other places. Now, if you're bringing a brand new product to market, don't do this. This is not the thing for you. There's other things. Do the $1 a day campaign if it's a new thing. However, if you have something that's established, that it sells, you got a $1,400 or $2,000 budget, and you want to get the most squeeze out of it, this is a very, very good thing for you to learn or to hire an agency to do for you. Like if you just tell them, I just want you to set up a smart display campaign for me and I want that to run, it can go very, very well. Now, here's the one caveat. It's like a bullet train, okay? It's very good once it gets going, but sometimes it can get off track a little bit. So one time when I was doing this with a client, we were scaling, and as you're scaling, it has to get more inventory. It has to broaden its scope. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So as it's broadening its scope, it's got to buy more targets, more people, more eyeballs.
Right.
It kind of veered off into coupon land. And coupon land, for the right offers, they can work really, really well. However, for the offers my client was running, coupon land was all of a sudden he's like, dude, and we're driving 10,000 plus leads a day. And all of a sudden the open rates just start tanking. They're just horrible. It's going bad. He's like, I don't know what happened recently, but the leads we're getting all of a sudden are really, really bad. We either got to turn this off or we got to figure it out. And so when I went into the campaign and I started looking at what Google was targeting with the smart display campaign, it had added in all these coupon sites. And so if I wasn't you still need a human there to kind of be measuring and making, to verify what Google is doing. And if I wasn't, then I would have got a really bad result. But we were watching it. And so within 2 days, I was able to go in there. I was able to assess, okay, it's all these coupon sites that don't match everything else we're doing. Let's tell Google to stop that. And then it got right back on the right rails.
That's awesome. Yeah, that could have been a dangerous, because once you get to that level, like it's great because you're making money, but you can also lose a lot of money really quickly if you're not watching it. So I think that's a really good lesson there.
Right.
So going back to the people, because like you said, at $100 a day, that does cut out a lot of people for getting started. But it sounds like if they can afford, a couple $1,000s and they've got a proven offer, this is definitely something to look into. But for those people that are at the bottom just trying to get started, how do they troubleshoot their campaigns? They're doing they got the $1,000. They divided it into 5 groups. They did the initial testing. They're reinforcing it. They're trying to optimize for conversion objectives or add to cart button or the nearest thing to that if they can. What are the other ways that those kinds of campaigns go wrong? Like, what do you do? I mean, I forget what it was, but you used to talk about how people always, I forget how you used to say it, but you used to talk about how people are always waiting for the perfect campaign where you're just looking to take shitty campaigns and make them better. It was something like that. It was like
absolutely.
It was like you expect campaigns to not work. And so how does that methodology?
They do. I mean, I've been doing this 15 years. I've run over 5,000 campaigns. I've spent tens of millions of dollars, and I can still count on one hand the amount of times that I had a first-time winner, So it just doesn't happen. And so you got to learn how to fix campaigns. And, the way, and I kind of learned this way of thinking from my father, who's a mechanic. The guy would come to the shop and say, hey, my car don't work. That's the macro goal. We got to get the car to work again. Mm-hmm. But what part of the car is not working then becomes the problem. There's a lot of micro issues going on that affect the macro issue. So when you look at the ad campaign, sales is the macro goal. We got to get sales. Okay. Right. Beneath the sale are all these micro things like the impression, the click, the time on page, the conversion rate. Do we need to increase our earnings per sale? There's a lot of little micro events that happen, just like I was talking about before with the add to carts leading to the sale. Well, sometimes And I would say that if you haven't measured it, when I've done this in the past, almost everyone that's never measured their cart abandonment rate, it's usually at a disgusting 70% or higher. 80, for every person clicking your order button, 8 of them are leaving without ever buying. So you get
a ton of money on the table.
A ton of money on the table. So that's usually one of the first things that I look at. I look at page load speed, the 2 biggest needle movers. Okay, that's the first thing that I go to look at. Like my dad, he goes and he checks the alternator and the oil, or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. But when I'm going under and I look at page load speed and I look at cart abandonment rate, because those are the 2 biggest needle movers. And if I see that your pages are loading at 7+ seconds, I know that right there is a big opportunity where I might not even have to change anything in the ad, but I can just chop that page load speed in half by doing a few optimizations, image size and, moving the code around and stuff like that. I chop that load speed in half. All of a sudden, now you're getting enough sales from the clicks that you're getting. Or I go and look at your cart abandonment rate, and I see that you have, an 80% plus people. So for every 10 clicks on the order button, 8 of them are leaving. So I start working that down using some retargeting, using some email marketing, using some best practices and things like that. And so now we get it to only 6 are leaving, and that's usually about as good as you can get it. 50 to 60% cart abandonment rate is really, really good. And so you get that down while you're getting the page load speed down. Now all of a sudden the campaigns are working, or we test a bunch of different things. So that's what you got to understand all the micro conversions. And so what I teach people to do is, on a piece of paper, write sale at the top, and then write every little tiny step that needs to happen to get to the sale, and you don't know which one of them is not working, so you got to check them all. When somebody brings a car into my dad, he's so good now that literally, if something's wrong with my car, he'll be like, "All right, go hold the phone over by the left side," and I'll do that. And he's like, "Okay, it's this problem." He can hear it over the phone. But until you're that good, what you got to do is you got to check every little step. Okay, so you got to look at your impressions. Are you getting? Is the ad network sending you enough impressions? Okay, they are. Okay, well, from the impression is a click. Are you getting enough clicks per impression? That's your click-through rate. And so you start walking up this ladder of micro conversions until you find the spot that is the issue. It's usually pretty glaring. You will see like, oh, this number looks good. This number. Oh, there it is. That's the number that doesn't match all the other numbers. Okay, that's the spot we got to fix. You fix that, and all of a sudden you get sales.
So the idea is you want to keep a steady flow. You don't keep – this is the part I think it's important for people to understand is you should be using your paid ad budget almost like you would if you had hired a sales rep. This is, again, from scientific advertising, where if you hired a sales rep, you wouldn't expect him to go out and start making sales on his first day. You'd expect him to go out and try to make sales on his first day, but you would be very understanding if it took a few weeks for them to finally get a sale and understand the product and the questions and all that sort of stuff. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're saying here, that you'd rather have someone spend $5 a day instead of $100 in 2 days, and with $5 a day, start looking at these metrics and basically reverse engineer it, beginning at the order form, and the moment of the collecting the cash. Take a look, and if you're not getting sales, are people getting to that point? And if they are, is it loading fast enough? Is it taking 15 seconds to load? And why are they abandoning? And then reverse engineer back up to where they initially see the ad and optimize that way. But the whole method way through, you got to keep, like, eyeballs got to be sacrificed, right? Like, you just got to keep the machine on. Yeah.
1,000%, man. That is why we tell people to use these lower ad budgets. It's one, the algorithms today are favoring them, and then 2, you got to be able to remove your emotion from it, and you got to know that it's not going to work right away, and that you're going to have to work on it a little bit. Look, advertising isn't magic. It's not like, it's not a luck, it's not a lottery, it's not magic, it's a trade just like anyone else. I run a trade school for digital advertisers, and we train them up, and we teach them how to look at the micro conversions and work on a campaign just like a mechanic works on a car. And so you can do these same things if you understand the micro conversions and just get under there and start tweaking things. You will get to the result.
And paid advertising is a very worthy to learn in business. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of campaigns that were doing millions in sales. I was typically there in the beginning, but once the budgets got to a certain level, it was well beyond my understanding. I knew principles, but I wasn't so well versed.
There are people that are now starting hedge funds for advertising. I don't fully understand it. I'm not, in the financial world. I've done a lot for clients, and I try, but basically, for many years, and I've known this, that's why I put my money in advertising campaigns, but the advertising campaign ROI is generally way more than the market. The market's trying to get 4% to 12%.
Yeah.
I crush 20%, 40% all day long.
Yeah.
And so guys are creating hedge funds where investors are pouring money into big, giant media buying campaigns. Yeah.
That makes sense. I always said that. I remember when I had my little martial arts school and I was doing the paid ads at the time. My buddy was like, "Oh, you should buy some." Maybe he was right. I don't know. But he's like, "You got to get into crypto and you should buy stock." I was like, "Forget that. Like, what's the ROI on that?" Like, especially he's like, "You need to get some index funds." I'm like, "What?" Like you said, like, what's the ROI on that? Like 3%, 5%. Like, like for me, I'd spend a couple $100. Like, it gave me a license to print money essentially because. And I wanted to actually ask about this. This is kind of my next question. I was going to ask phone versus page. I took what I learned with my online marketing and I figured out who we were targeting and I could get so much. I was a geographic local based business. So there was only so much traffic per month. I did a lot with like SEO and that. I think I took like my web visits from like 50 visits a month to over 1,000 visits a month. But I realized that only about 100 people were in my city. So I was having like 900 plus people come to my site and I had nothing to sell them. And the other part was the same thing when it comes to like online marketing. I was really restricted. This is like 12 years ago or 10 years ago now. But I was still really restricted, right? Like there was just only so many people searching. But if we went down to the university, because university men, UFC was blowing up at the time, university age males were like they were just my ideal target. And this whole free fighter fitness and skill assessment, it was like crack. I would just go down to campus or send some of my instructors who wear the t-shirt, have a clipboard, and we'd simply say, "Hey, do you like MMA? Yes or no?" And if they said yes, we would just say, "Would you be interested in a free fighter fitness and skill assessment? You could possibly qualify for a free 30-day trial." It was like printing money, man. I would collect 80, 100 plus leads in an hour, not even. And then, that's going to be the next 6 weeks of trying to get these 120 people to, to come through the door. So turning that into my next question, do you ever recommend, do you always say, we talked about the 5x3x2, do you recommend people make pages or do you recommend people get on the phone first or does it not matter? Do those change the game at all? Driving to a phone versus driving to a page?
I think in the beginning, you want to just worry about the page, and then you want to add in the phone because you're always going to make more money. There's only so much digital marketing can do. Like it's great, it's phenomenal. It can take you far. It can take you to 8 figures. Okay, so it can take you far, far. But almost every 9-figure, billion-dollar company, or if you want to get to the 8-figure level, 7-figure level faster, they're adding in the phone. They're adding in offline components. It could be the phone, it could be direct mail. When you start, adding in more than just the digital, you're going to get a much higher average order value, customer value, which is going to allow you to scale up that digital marketing. The best play in the world right now is getting your leads online and quickly taking them offline to the phone and to direct mail.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because a lot of my past and present clients, a lot of them are starting to build phone teams. And I know that when I was working with John and we did a couple of million, we get basically like a 30% bump off any campaign we were running if we had phone reps that were available. But I was just curious about that. Like, how do you get your copy dialed in? Because I know a lot of people I've talked to recently, like even in the last month, there's like 4 or 5 people that I've talked to them. And they're like, oh, I'm pushing traffic and, but I'm just looking at, heat maps and scratching my head trying to figure out why they're not buying. Like I'm looking at Google Analytic data and heat maps and like, that's it. So I was trying to like, how do you figure out what to say on the page? I'm not trying to start a conversation, I'm not trying to start a conversation on copywriting, but that was like that. Like, is there a basic template or structure you recommend? Like, are all sales pages kind of a simple standard formula? Is there a layout that you recommend? Does it really depend on the product or service, or?
There is a basic formula, and there's every copywriters will argue this, to the end of the days, which formula is best. But there's a tried and true formula that I use. It's been around for over 3,000 years. I forget if it was Aristotle or Socrates that originally created it, but it stood the test of time and it works. There are a lot of others that may work better, but this one works, and it's problem, agitate, solution. So you start at the top of the page, very clearly. Don't get cute, don't get clever, don't try to make jokes, don't try to, just be very bluntly clear about what problem you are discussing, and then start talking about all the other little problems that come up because of that problem. You may have the problem of being overweight, but that creates, your pain in your knees and you can't breathe, and then you have embarrassment and you have mental talk, and so you start agitating the problem, and then you start going into the solution. So that's the basic format of every sales pitch that's ever existed in the world. You can look at any infomercial and kind of break it down to problem, agitate, solution. And so, but then beyond that, there's a great book called Advertising, and it's a very short book, but it's full of a lot of really good information. It's not something, you may be able to read it cover to cover, but it's more of like something you pick up every once in a while for some ideas. Mm-hmm. And what I got out of it is when I test my 3 ads, going back to the 5x3x2, mm-hmm. My 3 ads, one of them is an angle that's taking them towards pleasure. So the messaging is taking them towards pleasure. Mm-hmm. Another angle is taking them away from pain. So, one angle could be, here's how you could get rich or build wealth. The other angle is, here's how you could save money every year. So that's towards pleasure and away from pain. Mm-hmm. And then another one is controversy, saying something that's very contrarian to what everybody else is saying.
Mm. Glenn Livingston calls it the voice of contrarian reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you want to have those different. You don't know what the market resonates with. What is their buying trigger? Are they like the internet marketing at whole is a towards pleasure. Mm-hmm. They want that. They want to make $1 million. Mm-hmm. Where the masses want to save $500 a month. And so you have to understand which angle drives your market, and that's why you test them. There's also one of my ads for a long time I was running the ad. It was flipping websites for profit. How to just like real estate but digitally online, and my angle was how to make a lot of money flipping websites. How to flip websites for like $50,000 or more. And I did all right. I made some sales. But as I optimized it, one of the angles that I tested was how to flip a site this weekend. And that killed it. People will more people, I should say. There is a market for people who want to flip a website for $50,000. But there is a massive market for people who want to flip a website for just $500 this weekend.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I think that's just in any market. It seems to be the largest group is always the beginners. Like I remember coming from martial arts background, you go to a tournament and there'd be like 1,000 white belts and 500 blue belts and 200 purple belts and 30 brown belts and like 2 black belts, and that's the competition. You'd have a whole country together, right. And that's how it would break down. So. That makes a ton of sense.
And so you can either go high ticket offer to the black belts, or you could go low ticket offer to the many. both strategies work. You just got to, and really, if you're smart, you do both. That's what we're now doing in ad skills. We started ad skills was, and I knew because everybody else was going after the beginners. I went after all the advanced. That's how we built up 11,000 customers. Is I was the only guy addressing the advanced people. And now that we have our stable base of customers, I've got my beginner offer that I'm scaling out. So do both, but maybe figure out, will you have an easier route into market going advanced, or will you have an easier route going beginner? You never know. So think about that strategy.
That's and it's funny. It's like you read my mind pulling that up, because when we were talking about this, that's when I said about newbies, you reminded me of a client I had years ago, Canada. He had a moving company, Frank the Mover, and they're still around today. And they're like the high-end moving company. And I was working with him, and he had like maxed out his, like, what he felt was, again, geographically based business. Only so many people are moving per month. And we came up with the idea of him opening up a low ticket, which is move for less. And so in the same city, there's two sets of ads. But if you call one phone number, it goes to one phone, landline. I mean, this is kind of early days of the internet. If you call the other number, it goes to the same secretary, same receptionist, same office, same everything. But if you order through Frank the Mover, then they wear the Frank the Mover shirts. They got the Frank the Mover truck with the logo on it, the spreadsheet or the forms with the Frank the Mover logo. If you move for less, you get the trucks that are just white, nothing. They're wearing white shirts and you're getting blank forms, and it's like, and of course the service is different as well. But he decided to compete with himself in that respect. And that actually just speaks to what you just said. That's definitely that's really, really smart. That's highly, That's an advance. That's a big nugget for some of these people listening. Once you get established, if you feel like you've saturated your market, that's huge. Justin, where do you think the future of this is going? What do people need to be aware of? What's on the horizon? Where are we going to be talking about in 3 or 5 years from now? Is it going to be chatbots? Is it going to be AI? Is it going to be that? What is it? I forget. Privatize, or what is it? I forget people are owning their digital data more. Where do you see things in 3 to 5 years from now?
So 3 to 5 years is still a little short. It's definitely in the 3-year range. It's up for grabs what could happen. But I mean, you can take a look at the track that the internet and all internet advertising has been going on, and it's getting more and more complicated. Or I should say sophisticated, not complicated. And it's just maturing. Look, the internet is almost 20 years old now. So it's starting to become an adult and doing adult things. It's not just the old days where you used to call up a website and say, hey, can I advertise on there? And okay, here's my ads, run them. I'll give you $1,000. That was the old days. The new days, you're logging into, they call it programmatic. You're logging into a software, and the software is crunching all the bits of data and doing auctions at the speed of electricity. And so we're moving more and more towards that. And so if you want to be competitive going forward, you either have to hire someone who is going to be good at that and is going to be learning that. They call it a technical marketer. There's a creative marketer, which is what we've all known as the guy who writes the headlines, and he knows that this color scheme is better than that color scheme, and he knows how to design things, the creative marketer. Well, now we have a technical marketer, and the technical marketer understands what event triggers are. He understands, all the pixels and the algorithms and how all that stuff works. And so you need to have a creative marketer, just like you always did. But now you need to start hiring a technical marketer. And that technical marketer is going to help you understand all the data, how to feed it back into. That's a big thing right now, is feeding data to the ad networks. Instead of just trying to get data from the ad networks, you want to be feeding data to the ad networks. They want to, because of all the privacy issues that are going on today with people not wanting to be targeted and, being known what's being targeted, the ad networks want to make it a black box. But they can't right away, because that would be a big jerk to the advertising industry. All of a sudden, if they turned around and tomorrow it's a black box, the advertising industry would revolt. But how do you do that? Well, it's the same way you cook a frog. You slowly start turning up the heat. So that's what they're doing, is they're slowly starting to take away interests and categories. And so I believe in the future, maybe 5+ years, you won't be able to target anything. You'll just have your data, and then you run the ads, just kind of like Smart Display. They will let you load everything in, and then they will look at your conversion data, and they will pick what you're targeting and what you're not targeting. And so you're going to need to be very good at making sure you're giving them good, clean data so that you get the result you want back out of the machine.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, and is that something that's at risk of being replaced by AI, or is that something you think will always need a human touch?
I think for a long time, AI, there is no AI. If you really, that's a whole nother podcast. There's just machine learning. It's a bunch of if then. They've just strung together a bunch of if then sequences, and that's what they call AI today. But for a long time, at least the next 10 years, that's it. It's just machine learning that's getting better, because there's more data that's been given to it. And so it's going to start looking smart. But right now, it's very dumb. I mean, it's a car crashing into the wall 80,000 times until it finds the one hole that it can go through without crashing. That's the level of intelligence we're at right now. But we're able to give it 1 billion, tests within a week now. Yeah. So we're able to train it very fast, even though it's still a brute force kind of training. And so that's going to continue to go, but it's just going to get smarter because it'll be more and more trained for the next 10 years. And then after 10 years, then we start coming into where you might not need a human anymore watching over these things, because it's just going to be trained so well on so many different things.
So in the meantime, between now and then, as like you said, a tradesman, a paid expert, is world-class at what you do. What are some of the daily habits or rituals, routines that a person needs to keep?
I think you should start, start learning, what an algorithm is. I'm not saying you need to start learning how to do an algorithm or anything like that, but, start getting into the vocabulary of, what is a tag manager? What is an event trigger versus a conversion? What actually is a pixel? How do they make a pixel? How does it work? You need to start understanding these things, because this is the way we're going forward. Just like we used to need to understand, the Ziegler effect, or, headlines, and, these different copywriting type of terms. We learned direct response. Well, if you want to stay in direct response going forward, you need to start learning these new vocabularies and how these things work. And if you at least just get a high level understanding of how it works, then you'll have a much better chance of hiring the right guy, because then you'll know if they actually know what they're talking about. And so that's what I think is the most important. Just start following some blogs, maybe pick up a beginner's book on algorithms, and just start absorbing yourself into what this is. I usually call it brute force learning, where I just keep watching YouTubes and reading books, and I don't really understand what I'm reading yet, but I know that every day I pick up another word or two, and within 2 weeks, within a month, all of a sudden I can speak I can talk the talk.
Yeah. Actually, I did that with Breakthrough Advertising, Eugene Schwartz's book. I remember the first time I read it, I was probably high or something. I'm from Canada, so. But I remember the first time reading it, it was just, I'd read 3 pages and I'd just be like, whoa, my head would hurt. Oh my. But now I've read the thing 17 times, and I just love how you call it, the brute force. I'm going to be good at this. I'm going to master this. Speaking of that, what are the type of people that do the best in your program? Like AdSkills, who is it really for, and what is the profile of someone who is the most successful with it? Not just with doing getting a great score in the course, but actually going on and doing really well afterwards, either in a career or with their own company or agency.
So the most established version of AdSkills is the one going to the advanced person. The new one where we're helping people that have never seen a Google ad before. It's new. We launched that literally this month. So we still need a lot of time to optimize that, to make that better, to, push people through it. And where we have the most success and the most like programs designed to get them success and train support people and all that is the advanced part. So somebody who already has an ad agency but wants to become the best, wants to become the go-to guy. We've got people in there that are spending millions of dollars on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on, all these other ad networks. I mean, it's a dime a dozen for somebody who spent $1 million on Facebook today.
Right.
But when it comes to LinkedIn ads, Snapchat ads, pretty soon there's going to be TikTok ads, there's Reddit ads. If you want to learn all these other ad networks, we got the guys. I mean, I got 11,000 ad buyers. We got a guy for everything inside there. And so we do a lot of hands-on training. We have practice accounts where they can actually, use one of our ad accounts, and we'll give them a campaign to run, and we'll fund it. I mean, it's going to be advertising our own stuff, but they'll get the hands-on experience. So the ad agency guy who's trying to go from, I'm doing all right to I'm killing it, we do really well for that guy. And then the kind of the same thing, somebody who already has a marketing department and the marketing department is good, but they want to like make it really, really good at advertising. We really help those guys, and that's where the Russell Brunsons, Frank Kern, Grant Cardone, they send their guys to us. Digital marketer sends their people to us, and we churn out, expert advertisers for them.
Yeah. I think it makes perfect sense. Again, because I have a martial arts background, if you're trying to win a gold medal, do you sit in a garage on your own and try and figure it out with a buddy? Or do you get, like you said, you've got a group with over 11,000 media buyers. So imagine if you could have, 50. So again, trying to win a gold medal, there's the guy that's in the garage figuring it out, trying to piece it together from what he can find in magazines and old VHS tapes, versus the guy or girl that gets there and finds 5 or 10 people that already won a gold medal and are willing to coach them through it and walk them. Like, who's going to be way more successful? It just seems like a no-brainer. So Justin, is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
No, man, this was great. You asked me all the questions that I'm always usually like left feeling unsatisfied from some podcasts. You asked me all the tough stuff, and I can't think of one that you didn't ask, man. You covered a lot of ground.
Good, thank you. Well, I know that a lot of people are newbies, and that's why we went back to the early campaign, the $1,000 budget, how to get started. But I actually was curious about the smart display campaign, and if that's something for newbies. And you did a great job of explaining kind of how it works, how to work with it, how to optimize and grow it. You also gave great criteria for who it's for versus who it's not for. So if you're new and you don't have anything that's proven, stay away from it. Stick with the 3x5x2. Do take the $1,000 budget. You got 200 groups, and the reason why you're doing it in 200 batches is because it's like work expands to fill the time that you give it. Like your ad campaigns can expand to spend the money you give it. So you'll test better if you have small chunks at a time. And you just gave a great perspective of what the state of affairs are now, where things are going. So I think this is a fantastic call. Those who are listening may want to listen to it again to make sure that they got all the notes. I know I took a bunch. And for anyone that's interested in figuring out how to build more profitable ad campaigns, anyone that would like to get certified as a paid advertiser, as a media buyer, or if anyone wants to get matched up with clients and jobs, go check out adskills.com. You can also follow Justin on social media. I always love and save a lot of his Facebook posts, Justin Brooke, Brooke. And really, that's it, Justin. I know you got a lot of other things you could be doing, so thank you for coming and sharing with us. I know you got your family there as well, and I just appreciate you coming and just giving so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, man. This was great.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give to them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better. and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you. 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 And I believe in you.